Broncos 33, Giants 32. I mean, this game was so damn crazy. I don't even really know where I want to go with it, but this stat from Adam Schefter, I think, perfectly encapsulates it. The Broncos 33 fourth quarter points. Yes, if you guys remember, I said they scored 33 points in the entire game. Broncos 33 fourth quarter points were the most points in the fourth quarter by any team that had been shut out in the first three quarters in NFL history. So I was ready to come on here and be like, what the hell is going on with the Broncos offense?
Right.
And they woke up at the end of this game. Chris, I feel like I actually still need to ask you, like, what the hell is going on with the Broncos offense? What is this unit?
I don't know. And I guess that's the question that I still have about Bo Nix as a passer and this entire offense. Because even if we look at this, let's take the real football portion at it for a half second. If you were to line up all of the skill players for the Broncos, from the running backs to the wide receivers and even Evan Ingram as a tight end, how many of them would you really say confidently that you say, yep, I'm starting them on a week in, week out basis? Maybe two? Maybe three, because it's not.
Yeah.
And that's the tough part, because Bo Nix, for the fact that he wound up getting into the end zone, I think a couple of times as a rusher, and still connecting enough downfield in order to move them into field goal in order for them to pull out this win. I mean, still, it's just around like 8 yards per attempt. I mean, they're trying to dial up some play action shots here and there, and he winds up connecting with Courtland Sutton enough. But who is the wide receiver 2 in this offense? How are we going to, and where else can we find that production, at least consistently enough, that we want to start some of those other pass catchers attached to Bo Nix? Because it's been, at least for me, looking at him even through this game in week 7, it's been up and down enough that really the only guys that I trust out of it are J.K. Dobbins, the running back. It's Courtland Sutton as their wide receiver 1. And then really Evan Ingram, if you want to put him into that middle class of tight ends, but even that can be something of some level of volatility on a weekly basis. But really, those are the only few guys that I have enough confidence in for the way that they've been used, and especially how Bo Nix has been operating as a passer. Because to your point, 33 points in the fourth quarter. For the first 3 quarters, a lot of us were asking those same questions about what this Sean Payton offense is with Bo Nix in his second year. And while they get the win, I still have those questions about, well, what is this going to look like in week 8? What is this going to look like in weeks 14, 15, and 16, just because of the level of play that we've seen out of this entire offense so far?
Yeah, I mean, Bo Nix throws 2 touchdowns in this game. One of them goes to backup running back R.J. Harvey, who touched the football 5 times, 5 times for 2 yards from scrimmage, which was the 2-yard touchdown reception. That's where he got his 2 yards from. 4 carries for 0 yards, so he wasn't really involved. The other touchdown goes to Troy Franklin, who turned 10 targets into 3 receptions, and that was caught off a deflection. And that at one point, that was the weirdest point of the game, where there were so many times, Chris, where I thought, and we'll just transition this into the Giants here, I thought, man, this is just, everything is turning up New York here, because Troy Franklin catches that touchdown off the deflection, and then immediately after that, the Giants turn around and get a deflected pass that falls into the hands of tight end Theo Johnson, who just scampers down the field for 41 yards for a touchdown. I'm like, damn, everything is just that's just like the things are going your way here for the New York Giants. And then they end up losing the game. So, I mean, credit to Jackson Dart. This was a tough matchup, tough environment, and he battled in this game. I mean, they definitely, that DPI at the end on Riley Moss, I thought was a little silly to get put them down. That was bad, to put them down at the 1-yard line, and Dart pushes the touchdown in. But before that, I don't want to use that to take away. Again, that was another moment where I was like, damn, things are just coming up New York here. I don't want to use that as a thing to take away from the Giants here, because this was really a very impressive game, I thought, from Jackson Dart.
Yeah, and for how well that we've had, how much regard we had put for the Broncos defense coming into this game. And this was also the game where we thought that that Denver was going to really play up to it, just because of the fact that it was the unveiling of Demaryius Thomas's bust, like outside it for the Ring of Honor for that game. So a lot of just general level of emotion for the Broncos, and that we would think that they would wind up stomping the Giants in this one. But yeah, I mean, Jackson Dart, first quarterback to face the Broncos with 3 touchdown passes. I mean, one of the lower pressure rates for any quarterback to face them so far, like through 6-7 weeks. I mean, with the way that Dart played going up against this Broncos defense that we had feared, especially for any wide receiver ones having to go up against Patrick Surtain, without having Malik Neighbors on the opposite side of the field, I was like, is this the same Giants offense that we were thinking was going to be without Neighbors on the field for them? I mean, tossing to Wan'Dale Robinson, Theo Johnson, didn't even have Darius Slayton in this game as well. I mean, having at least the fewer number of pass catches available to him and putting up this much production, the fact that they lost is going to probably weigh heavy on the rest of the squad. But still, with the way that Dart played, you can see why at least Dable had enough fascination with him to draft him in the first place.
Oh, no question. I think we just put up the tweet from Steve Palazzolo there a minute ago, and it's just the best way that you can say this about the Giants is that everything feels different about this team since Jackson Dart took over. And I mean, if I was them, I'd be trying to get a wide receiver before the trade deadline, because Wan'Dale Robinson, 12 targets, 95 yards, but Daniel Bellinger pops it like busted touchdown for reception for a touchdown there. Theo Johnson, the long scamper. So there's some, I don't want to call it flukiness, but there's some, things that broke their way. But clearly Dart has played well for them. The ball came out fast today. He made good decisions for the most part. I'd be trying to get him a little bit more help from the perimeter wide receiver perspective because of all the issues that they had there. So really can't ask for much more other than this game. You're going to feel irritated that you didn't win it for sure. But again, it was a good performance from the rookie quarterback. All right. That does it for the games we care most about. Now let's get into the games that we sort of care about. And we're going to stick in the late window here. Thought this would be one of the headliner games here, Chris Allen, but it is not, because Cowboys blow out the Commanders 44-22. I think we can start on the Commanders side of things here. Usually start with the winner, but I feel like we can start with the Commanders here because they already came into this game down pretty bad from an injury perspective on the offense. They were missing Deebo Samuel. They're missing Terry McLaurin. And then in the third quarter, Jaden Daniels goes out for the rest of the game due to a hamstring injury. Marcus Mariota, who usually it's like, oh, well, Mariota can come in here and run the offense pretty damn well when Jaden's not in there. He comes in there and immediately throws a pick six. Doesn't make things any better. So I don't really know what to say about the Commanders other than they've just had some pretty rotten injury luck so far this year.
Well, and then also we were talking earlier this morning about the potential for a guy like Luke McCaffrey to get a little bit more run, and he winds up having to go to the injury tent after he attempts. I would say this: don't try and hurdle a guy unless you're pretty confident you're going to be able to clear the person, because he winds up getting upended and he falls on his back and hits his head and winds up at least missing a couple of plays before getting back in. But if you're pass game features or is headlined by Jalen Lane, Chris Moore, and 30-plus-year-old Zach Ertz, you're probably going to be in for a bad day. And Jaden Daniels' injury is probably just the icing on the cake to where the Commanders are at from an offensive injury standpoint. So we were hoping for a bit more production for the Commanders just because they were facing the Cowboys defense. But if you are this banged up and you are missing this many superstars on your team, it's going to be tough sledding regardless of who you are from an offensive standpoint.
Yeah, this from Next Gen Stats. Jaden Daniels struggled against man coverage, completing only 3 of 10 passes for 39 yards, which, by the way, that's a little bit of a new wrinkle for Matt Eberflus. They're throwing some man coverage out there when they've pretty much been strictly zone. He carved up the zone, 9 of 12 for 117 yards and a touchdown. And that just feels like a, hey, we don't have our guys type of stat, right? We're running out Chris Moore in the year 2025. Luke McCaffrey is intriguing, but I mean, come on. Jalen Lane, a day 3 rookie. Those are your main receivers. Your best guy is Zach Ertz. You're gonna do well against zone coverage, but you're not gonna beat man coverage. Hopefully this team can get healthy here pretty soon, because I do think there's still some intrigue here, but they're gonna start to fall behind at some point. I mean, again, you lose this game to Dallas, that's tough, but we just got to get to a point where the offense is a little more fully stocked so that they're not in these negative game scripts, which are also, just bad news for Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. He's a guy who is a game script sensitive back, so he's another player that suffers in these environments. On the Dallas side of things, it's pretty sick to see CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens playing together. I mean, that was pretty electric. Dak Prescott continues to ball out. You highlighted him this morning. You had to be pretty happy with what you saw here.
Yeah, and you and I, we had the conversation, I believe it was last week, when we knew that at least there was a chance that CeeDee Lamb was going to return. And how would this offense operate with 2 essentially wide receiver ones operating in this game? And you laid out really well that with the way that CeeDee Lamb operates, how he plays on the field, he's more or less their power slot Pickens playing more on the outside. And with how often Dak Prescott dropped backs to pass, there's enough production, or there's enough opportunity in this offense for both to eat. And we really saw that in this game, where Pickens just making yet another highlight reel catch, like multiple highlight reel catches. I mean, on multiple times throughout the game. And of course, CeeDee Lamb getting loose for a deep score. I think it was like 46 yards or something along those lines. So this is a type of push and pull, or type of wide receiver core that you essentially want, where you have a top end or high end quarterback that's willing to push the ball downfield in Dak Prescott, and you have two solid receivers that are able to be on the opposite end of those passes, and that is CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. So this is the type of offense that we would want for fantasy purposes, and really showing out against the Commanders defense, which we knew to be something of a sieve, but still, this is what we really want from a fantasy standpoint.
Yeah, George Pickens also drew a DPI, at least one in this game. Might have been a couple, but I knew he drew one very early from Marshawn Lattimore, which I joked was at minus 500 in the sports books before the game that Marcus Lattimore was going to commit a DPI on George Pickens. So, yeah, obviously 4 for 82. It's not quite the eruption that you were getting from George Pickens, but you're not complaining about an 82-yard game from one of your starting receivers. That's perfectly fine. So, yeah, there's truly nothing went wrong for Dallas from an offensive perspective in this game. 116 yards and a touchdown for Javonte Williams on the ground. Jake Ferguson, 7 targets, 2 touchdowns, 29 yards. It just continues to go for Dallas. So, yeah, I love this offense from a fantasy standpoint. I love this offense from a real-life standpoint, and I hope this team can stay competitive throughout the course of the season.